the importance of representation, of having people that look like you where you are, is like so important, because you begin to think that you're the problem, when in reality the problem is that there's not enough of you where you should be.
Giselle Alcantar Soto, thank you so much for joining us here at Cima Memorias. Tell us who you are.
So my name is Giselle Alcantar Soto. I'm an immigrant, first generation, at the age of 13 with my parents from El Estado de Michoacán in Mexico. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I work as a Spanish teacher at Ever High School. This is my second year as a teacher, and I also advise the Latinos Unidos Club. Ever High School is amazing, and my students are amazing. And I went to Cima when I was, I think, a sophomore or junior. Honestly, I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But I went to Cima when I was a junior or a sophomore in high school. And it was one of the experiences that started opening up a pathway for me to explore what it means to be Latina in the U.S. And that representation matters.
Are you looking forward to like becoming an SC or a JC?
Yeah, actually, I was going to be an SC this summer, but COVID did whatever it wanted. So,
can you tell me what Cima means to you?
I was heavily involved at my high school. I was like part of the leadership class for 2 years, a junior and a senior. I was like part of sports. I did all 4 years, swimming, all 4 years, tennis. I took a break in winter break because basketball or like volleyball were not my thing. And so I was heavily involved, but throughout my entire high school, even though I was so involved and had like awesome teachers, I had this incredible sense of loneliness and of not feeling accepted and feeling like there was something wrong with me. And later on, thanks to experiences like Cima, and then later on like college, and like being able to talk to other people whose experience had been similar to mine, I realized that sense of loneliness had been because I was often the only Latina at these groups, like the only Latina in my leadership class, the only Latina in my swim team, the only Latina here and there, right? And so like implicitly as a young teenager, you begin to make the connections that it was one of the experiences that started opening up a pathway for me to explore what it means to be Latina in the US, and that representation matters. The further you distance yourself from your community of color, the more that this racist system rewards you, right? And so I somehow managed to sever myself from my community at the expense of my like well-being, right? Like my soul in many ways. Thankfully, my leadership teacher, I am assuming she saw that like I was often like working alone in the leadership class. Like they invited each other places, but I was never like invited. Like I only interacted with them in like that one period, and then like I was like non-existent to them, right? And it was majority white students in that class. There was a couple other students of color, but I imagine they might have had a similar experience to mine. But when she suggested that I go, I was like, yeah, like that sounds really fun. And it was there where I realized like how much I'd been missing out by severing that connection with my community of Latinos. And that's where I began to understand the importance of representation, of having people that look like you where you are, is like so important, because you begin to think that you're the problem, when in reality the problem is that there's not enough of you where you should be. And so Cima was like a beginning, like a jumping off point for me. And I'll never forget Vincent and that little activity where like it was like an icebreaker with like 300 people, where you just like put your hands with the, like the little chilito, or I think what's he called it, and like you had to like grab the finger of the person. Like I remember that so vividly, and I remember him being like, dang, like he really has the control of like this many kids right now, and we're all so for it. Like I'll never forget that. So simple. And of course I've done that in my classroom and they eat it up.
What would you say was your favorite memory of Cima?
There's a couple that pop to mind. I love the challenge. What is it called? The challenge trails? No.
The challenge course?
there we go, the challenge course. Oh, I love those. But I think my parents will be like, just because I'm just like such a like changa, they would say, but like I just love being outdoors and like being active, and so like I had a lot of fun. Like I have this like vivid memory, like as a teenager, we were doing this one where you were on this tree trunk. No, we were on this tree trunk, and you were supposed to get across without falling off with your team of like 5-6 students. And I remember this dude just like picks me up and puts me on the other side, and I was just like, what just happened? But that was fun. The challenge course was really fun. I really love like food times. Remember that you had to like they did it randomly, that the people that had like whatever birthdays had to like clean up or whatever, or things like it was just, everything was like you look forward to it because everything was so engaging and like fun. I also remember the dance was really fun. I also remember like in the dorms, like nobody slept, like people just like talked to each other, and like you were like dead the next day, but it was okay because it was so engaging, you forgot that you were super tired. I remember the hikes. Like my favorite were always like all the super creative icebreakers, because you always had so much fun. And I'm like I told you, like well, I don't think I told you, but at the time I was like a pretty shy person, especially with like such a new, and I was by myself. There was no one else from my school. And normally there's like a few other students, even though you like separate them purposely, but there's literally no one else. I was by myself. And so it was pretty hard at first, but the counselors made it so easy to just like get to know people. And like everybody says this, but you break out of your shell.
What is something that you'd say you took away with from La Cima?
That I needed to be more connected to my people. That it was something that was missing. It was something that I was craving. And it was something that I was denying myself because I was being complicit in a system that told me that's what I needed to do.
What keeps you going in this moment?
My husband is a big part of what keeps me going. He is actually a teacher. Well, he's going to be a teacher at high school next year. So we'll be teaching together, and we'll be doing the Latinos Unidos Club together. And that's really exciting. He is like my voice of reason. He is like, he grounds me whenever I'm like up here and like going off and like can't find my footing. Like he helps me remain calm. And when I'm like in a bad mood, like he'll either like know that he needs to leave me alone or he'll know that he needs to like get me, like distract me and like help me figure something out, because I'm a pretty social person, and so like being like isolated has been really, really rough for me. He keeps me going a lot. My desire for, I should say my belief in education as a legitimate tool for change, for sustainable change in our society, is also what keeps me going. I truly believe that education is the key to solve the majority of our problems, which stem from ignorance. And how do you cure ignorance? You educate. And so that's one of the big reasons why I went into education. I wanted to be part of the solution. And I like kids and Spanish. And then my family is also like a large part of that. I have over the years been able to really get to know my parents and like see them in a different light. Like as a teenager, it's hard because you don't understand, you don't have like the perspective that, you know, you're such a jerk to them as a teenager, you know. But now they're like my friends, you know, and we actually moved next to them, so we're like neighbors now too. And they don't know that that's because whenever grandkids come along, like that's on them. No, we they keep me going a lot just because they've always been an inspiration of what it means to work for your dreams.
Now, as a teacher and working here at Everett High School, do you ever feel like an imposter syndrome?
Absolutely, because what is the first thing people, like, you see my face and then you ask me, what do you do? And then I tell you I'm a teacher. What is the next thought that's going to pop into people's head? oh, you must be a Spanish teacher. Well, do you think that of like every other white person, like there must be an English teacher? I don't think so, right? And so they automatically assume that I decided to take the easy way out when, like, hello, I also had to major in Spanish, like I have to get my education degree. Like, where do you see the easy part? And so it's definitely like something like maybe like fighting with those thoughts, like maybe I did take the easy way out, maybe I did, but actually it's like an uphill battle to be able to be like a Latina as a Spanish teacher, because you're fighting against all these stereotypes every single day, and you're fighting against this mentality of like, well, she just wants you to like teach you her language, and like she's like an English hater, like whatever. Like you're fighting against all these stereotypes every day. And simply the fact of being a woman of color, I cannot tell you how many people feel entitled to your time, to your like opinion, to your space. Like it's gross. Or like how many people think that just because you're Latina, like now you have to take under your wing and every other like Latino who's in trouble. Like and this is mostly teachers. Like thankfully I have like admin that like really backs me up, and they're growing in their understanding of like equity work, and I so appreciate them. But it's hard with your colleagues, right? Because they don't always understand, and sometimes they're veteran teachers, so they automatically assume that they know better, and that's not always the case.
Let's say a delegate is listening to this, somebody who was supposed to be a delegate this year. What would you tell them, since you had the experience of being like the only Latino person in or things like that? What would you like encourage them or tell them to do?
I would encourage them to go out of their way to find them, because it's not that there weren't any other Latinos in my high school. They were there. I just distanced myself from them purposely. So go out of your way to find them. I think sometimes as especially Latina girls and women, there is this little thing called misogyny that I know also played a huge part in me not wanting to hang out with Latinas, because I saw my Latina classmates as competition. I did not see them as my friends. And that's just like a huge part of our culture as Latina. Like women are pitted against each other so harshly. And so like, let go of that. They're not your competition. Like they're your friends. They're just as lonely as you are. They need just as much validation as you do. God, I crave nothing more than to have a girlfriend that like would like pump me up when I was feeling ugly, or like, you know, like you need that love. Like don't let misogyny get in the way of reaching out.
The last question that I have is, what actions are you taking? I know you said you have this project with your husband, and then like you're a teacher. I mean, you're just impacting people's lives like for a living.
We try. So being a teacher is my biggest plan, I guess, right? But what I'm currently working on is actually I'm working with the district and with a team that's called Cultural Competency Task Force, and that one works with the union. So I'm working with both the union and the district to try to see some lasting change. We're trying to get some like language into the teaching contract, right? That everyone has to have mandatory like equity, anti-racist, anti-bias training. So hopefully we'll make that happen. I'm also working with my admin. We're trying to make sure that we have sustainability in what we do. So for example, we have this group of students that's called the Next Generation Student that is formed by 2 representatives from every single student group. So like there's 2 reps from Latinos Unidos, there's 2 reps from BSU, 2 reps from Pacific Islanders, there's 2 reps from every sports club, 2 reps from the bookworms. And their job is to see what they want to improve in their school, what they want to make better, what changes they want to see. And that position, the advisor for that position, as you can imagine, that's a huge undertaking for a teacher. And that position was like not funded. And so that, for example, that's one of the things we're hoping to get funded, because we need sustainability around this work, and we cannot continue to ask teachers of color, queer teachers, like to continue to volunteer their time when our counterpart white teachers are just like sitting on their cozy like chairs and not doing this, you know? So.
That sounds really exciting. At the end of the interview, we go through these like rapid fire questions. So basically, you just answer either one sentence or one word. So the first question is a book or a podcast that you recommend to everyone?
Se regalan dudas o preguntas, something like that. It's one of the first social justice podcasts or social justice oriented podcasts that I've ever heard in Spanish. And as a Spanish teacher, I look for that. They're pretty basic, to be honest. It's mostly feminism. They're not super intersectional, but I hope to see them go there eventually. But it's like nice to be able to have these, to have the words and vocabulary to have these discussions in Spanish, for example, with my family.
What is a piece of advice you would say to your younger self or wish you heard when you were younger?
Be less angry. I was such an angry child.
But I think it comes from you not like just putting your emotion, like maybe you were sad or maybe it was something else and you making it anger. So
that's true. I think maybe just like, maybe not be less angry, but find ways to explore that anger and the reason why you were angry and to like deal with it in a healthy way.
What is a call to action you have for our listeners?
Explore becoming an educator. Maybe it's for you.
What or who are you most grateful for at this moment?
I'm grateful. My dogs, they're like lifesavers. They're sweethearts. I love them. I have a puppy, 7-month-old golden doodle, even though he's like 50 pounds and giant, but he's a puppy. And then I have a 9-year-old miniature poodle. He's like tiny, but he's like an old man. And they're super cute.
I really hope next year we can meet at La Cima.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you, make a connection.